Hello and welcome to this episode of Kennedy Saves the World. I don't think it's a coincidence that the week Joy Reid is ushered out of MSNBC for being a disgusting, dishonest race baiter, a breath of fresh air blows into the weekend here at Fox News. My View with Lara Trump debuts this Saturday night on the Fox News channel, 9 p.m. Eastern. Lara Trump is here with me now. Welcome to Kennedy Saves the World.
Oh, well, thank you. What a nice intro. And I love to be described as a breath of fresh air. That's quite lovely. Thank you.
So this is very exciting. Saturday nights have always been an exciting place on Fox News. And I think your show into Jimmy Fallon, Fox News Saturday night, I think that's going to be the best block on the network. I don't mind saying that. And for everyone who's offended, suck an egg.
For everyone who's offended, take it from Tom Homan when he spoke at CPAC. He doesn't give a you-know-what. No, I'm just kidding. I would never say something like that. Thank you. You know what? I in my mind, whenever I thought about what would I do if someone ever gave me the opportunity to have my own show, it's kind of wild, Kennedy, to even say that. I said, I think I have this amazing opportunity to bring people something a little different. The news cycle is nuts. We all know that. It's 24/7. Things are moving at such a rapid pace. Thank you to President Donald J. Trump for that and his entire administration. But because of that, I think we're so inundated every day that we never take a moment to actually appreciate who are the people behind the headlines. You see their names out there every single day. They're making news themselves. But who are they? What makes them tick? How did they end up where they are today? And that's a little bit of what I want to bring, a little more insight into the people, the happenings, the agencies, all of it. And so I do think it's different, and I think it's fun, and I'm very excited.
I think that's very interesting because when you kind of pull back the curtain and show who's really running things and who are the people behind it, it's like I'm tasked with saving the world, but you are tasked, and this is a self-assignment with showing the world as it really is. And it sounds like that is the aim of your show.
Yeah, and by the way, this is something I kind of feel like I've been doing for 8 years now as the daughter-in-law of President Trump. Because, in 2016, it was interesting. Those of us in the Trump family, this may shock people to know, Kennedy, had no experience in politics prior to the famous escalator ride down in Trump Tower with, of course, my father-in-law and Melania. We didn't know anything about politics. I did know the man himself. I knew Donald Trump. I knew him as a father-in-law. And I continued to hear people disparage this man, to lie about him, to continue to attack his character. And so my initial, time out on the campaign trail was really talking about the man I know and really giving people insight into him and a different viewpoint than they otherwise would have gotten. And so maybe it is apropos that now I'm doing that as well for his administration during his second term in office. But yeah, I want to bring people things maybe they didn't expect.
And that's something that people will look forward to because, we're always looking for new information, new nuggets, new things to take to the party after you watch the show, new elements and angles on the conversation that everyone is having. What I want to know is your name, like anyone named Kara or Cara or Tara or Tara or Meryl or Mara, who happens to be one of my producers here at Kennedy Saves the World. Your name is Lara, but I was told by Jimmy Fallon's executive producer that the first time you met the president, he called you Lara, and so everyone in the family started calling you Lara. Is that true?
That I actually don't remember exactly how he pronounced my name, but there's been a lot of discussion. I know this will shock no one because I do have what turns out to be a very challenging name for people to say. You said it beautifully. It's Lara, and I was named after a book, Dr. Zhivago. It was made into a movie in the 60s. Apparently, my parents were really into it, but that's where I got my name. You're right. It's a tough one, but for a long time, there was discussion in the Trump family. I think initially when Eric and I started dating, he's got this new girl around. She's got a weird name. No one knows how to say it.
It's just versatile. It's a very versatile pronunciation. And the only thing I ask of people who have a similarly spelled name, don't be mad if people mispronounce it because I promise you we are trying our best. And I did seek confirmation from 2 teams how to appropriately pronounce your name, even though I have been on the outnumbered couch with you in the past. Now, the first time you met the president, did you look at him? Did you shake his hand and go, this guy's going to be president?
No, but I was incredibly intimidated, and I'll tell you why. Because my husband did not give me the information necessary to understand I was about to meet his dad, my future father-in-law, and you know, it's a big deal when you meet somebody's parent who you've been dating for a little while. That's a big one. You kind of want to know about that in true Eric Trump fashion. I didn't get a heads up on that. I just walked into a room and there was Donald Trump, there was Melania, I think Ivanka and Jared eventually showed up, and I was like, I don't know what's going on here. And I was nervous and freaking out until he did the thing that we know Donald Trump likes to do. We know he likes 2 scoops of ice cream. He offered me an ice cream, and that set things on a very easy path from that moment on.
Did you say yes?
Who says no? Absolutely.
I
Yes.
love ice cream. I'm
Yeah.
a fan.
Yeah, if you're turning it down, I don't know. We might not be able to hang out.
No, that would be problematic. So other than your father-in-law, who is your favorite person in the administration? Who do you like to watch, not only as someone who has an inside seat, but also someone who is embarking on a new path as an opinion journalist? Who sparks your interest the most? Who do you find to be most intriguing?
Well, I think we all think Elon Musk is absolutely the most intriguing. I mean, this is a guy, by the way, I hope people remember this, who's getting absolutely nothing out of what he's doing. He's set his like real job aside to do this for us, for we the people, to set our country back on the right path and make sure that we're not bankrupt and we have a country left at the end of this. But it's tough outside of Elon because I am friends with so many of these people. I think Caroline Leavitt is a rock star. I think she absolutely nails it every time she's in front of the press. I think Pam Bondi is going to be one of the greatest attorney generals we have ever had. I think RFK Jr. is fascinating. A guy who a year ago, Kennedy, was running as a Democrat for president and is now serving in Donald Trump's administration. That is amazing. So it's an awesome time to be alive. I mean, forget my proximity to all of it. I think it's just also fascinating to take in. And the speed with which things are happening, too, I think is incredible. And it is an understatement, but I'm certainly excited for what we've got going for the next 4 years.
Don't go anywhere. More Kennedy Saves the World right after this. I'm glad you brought up Caroline Leavitt because I was watching her yesterday in her press conference, and she was funny. She was going back and forth with the press. She obviously knows what she's talking about, which I'm assuming she spends time with the president, and is briefed specifically about, you know, what will come up in the press briefing. And, you know, obviously things are moving at breakneck speed. And it's just such an incredible contrast to Karine Jean-Pierre. You know, you look at Karine Jean-Pierre, and I was talking on X yesterday about the former vice president who was waltzing through my neighborhood, Pacific Palisades, a couple blocks away from my house, just, you know, casually, you know, just farting out some stupid talking points. And, you know, I look at her and I look at her incompetence and her insensitivity and her inability to communicate. And I think to myself, she could have been president. Like, how worried were you that she was going to win during the final weeks of the election?
I mean, look, I actually remember election night. I knew there was a point we got to, and I knew because we have all the internal numbers and we have all of our people giving us the data. There was a moment I knew, like, we had it in the bag. I still was on pins and needles until it was called by all the people, you know, out there, by Fox News, by AP, by all the different sources out there. I was still terrified for a couple of reasons. Number one, because exactly what you just said is very frightening. Kamala Harris, who went out to Los Angeles, to Pacific Palisades, a place that has been burned to the ground, and instead of actually saying, you know, I have a certain feeling about what's going on here right now, or here's what needs to happen, she talked about the smell of smoke.
It was
outrageous. Outrageous. Just when you think it can't get any worse, we get one of those. But then simultaneously, my role as co-chair of the RNC during the campaign, I mean, that was a huge deal. Our job was to ensure fairness and transparency in our electoral process. And that was a very heavy lift, if I'm being honest. So there was the weight of so much, I think, on me personally, but on our entire country. So yeah, I knew that if there was a fair election, Donald Trump had it in the bag, so to speak. But you know, you never know what kind of tricky stuff will get pulled out at the last minute. We had to be prepared for everything. 6,500 attorneys, 230,000 poll watchers and workers across the country. And thank God we're sitting here today. Donald Trump's the 47th president.
So what I thought was really interesting during the campaign was her internal polling, and I talked to a bunch of Democrats, and they all said the same thing, like, she's winning. Like, our internal polling is so good and it's so much better. And then, leading up to that, you had the Ann Seltzer poll, and she was like, yeah, Kamala's going to win by 5 points. And it was like, whoa, do we really not have a handle on this? Because all the other polling, all the external polling showed it was so close. So, you are co-chair of the RNC, which means you have access to this internal polling. How did your candidate get it so right and her campaign got it so wrong in terms of, the phenomenal amount of money that you spend on internal polling? How could they have gotten it so wrong?
Well, I think you have to know your pollsters and you have to really be able to trust them. And sometimes people like to have a job because they give you good information. Information that, and by that I mean information you want to hear, positive feedback and positive reinforcement. It isn't, as it turns out, good information. It's erroneous information. And I think they always tend to oversample Democrats in a lot of these polls, which of course is going to sway the outcome of your polling. And I mean, we really took it very seriously, I can tell you, from the Republican side, and we wanted everything done perfectly. We wanted equal samples of Democrats, Republicans, and independents. And so I knew we could trust our numbers. I don't know what they were doing on the other side over there, but my hunch is that whenever you want to keep a job going and keep making a paycheck, you keep delivering information that people want to hear, and maybe they keep paying you for that information.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that
didn't go well.
I don't know that that's polling or propaganda. And, it's like, she's the one in charge. But it's interesting, these female California politicians, the buck does not stop with them. And I look at Karen Bass and I see the same thing. She's like, well, no one told me about the weather. No one told me.
She's going to investigate herself, Kennedy. Don't worry. We'll get to the bottom of why she ended up in Ghana. It's amazing to see the lack of accountability. And then the trying to place the accountability on the fire chief, who was actually there, who said, well, wait a minute, we didn't have the resources, you cut our budget, we didn't have water in a lot of these, locations we went to hook up to the fire hydrants. Are you kidding me? It's, wow, what a time.
Will you ever be critical or make fun of the president on your new show, My View with Lara Trump?
Look, caught yourself there, didn't you? I will always be myself, and myself, I fancy myself a pretty funny lady, and I do a pretty mean Donald Trump impression. So I'm just throwing it out. You may get some of that on there. You may get some things you don't expect out there. The good news is, I think that this is a man who has studied up over the past 4 years, watched failure after failure of the former president, Joe Biden, learned a lot from that, and also learned from his first term in office. So thus far, I'll be honest, there is nothing for which I could be critical of Donald Trump in his second term in office. Now, he knows I will be honest with him directly to his face if I think that he's doing something that maybe I disagree with. But here's the rub. It turns out that I'm going to say 99% of the time, whatever it was that I said, I think you should do it this way, if I go back and look, I'm always like, God, he was right. He has this amazing ability to feel things out and really take in a situation and know the right direction, even when everybody else is like, I don't know if I would do it that way. He does it his way, and it generally works out for him.
Well, I cannot wait to see the impression. We will be watching My View Saturday night, 9 p.m. on the Fox News channel. Lara, thank you so much for taking time. Best of luck with your show. It is going to be wildly successful, and we'll be watching every minute. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
This has been Kennedy Saves the World, along with Lara Trump. I'm Kennedy. Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app. Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say. You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.